I'm also going to go ahead and start the recording for this as well. Yes, welcome everyone. My name is Carlin Bowens, Community Restorative Justice Manager. We are rooted and grounded here in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the community RJ Hubs in just a moment. You'll hear me say RJ Hubs quite a lot. It's basically just a shorter version of saying restorative justice, right? So if you hear RJ, just know I'm talking about restorative justice. You all, welcome to the campfire, right? We know that restorative justice is more than just about policy and process. This is about gathering. This is about storytelling, right? Um, these are things that we know. So when we think about a campfire, this space specifically is a space of warmth. So as we are in communication and conversation today, just know that this is a space. This is the campfire where you are able to bring your full self and are going to be met with care, right? Just like a campfire, this is a place to tend embers, the small practices that keep the fire of justice alive. We all are calling in from various different organizations, probably across the states. Whatever it is that you're working towards at your organization, this is that small practice, right? It helps you to go back and align and realign and think about where restorative justice intersect. Just like a campfire, you all, this is a place of reflection where wisdom gets to be shared across roles, across generations, and across experiences. Just like a campfire, this is a circle of voices. So each one of us have something very valuable to offer, and I'm going to ask that you really offer in, right? Even in this virtual world where we might not be sharing the same physical space right now, we can still share with intention, with presence, and purpose. So, welcome again to the digital campfire, you all, centered on restorative justice, practice, and philosophy. So grateful once again that all of you all were able to join. Now, there's something that I like to do before I dive into facilitation, right? And that is asking you all to take a moment and think about how you feel in this moment. Can you get a number in your head? Maybe between 1 and 5, right? One being, I don't even know how I'm here. Five being, I am at my absolute highest. I am at my best right now. I have all the energy. Just get a number in your head. Take a moment and think about it. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? And then what I want you to do, don't rush to do it, right? Listen to me real closely. What I want you to do is to type that number in the chat, but do not hit send yet. Just get that number from your head. Go ahead and type it in the chat, but I'm going to count to three. And when I count to three, that's when we're going to release it all to the chat, okay? So right now I'm thinking of my number, thinking of how I feel. Everybody have their number? Got our number? Okay. I'm gonna count to three and we're gonna put it in the chat. So 1, 2, 3. Release that number in the chat. This is also my test to know if y'all are paying attention, right? And if y'all hear me. Wow, take a moment and read what your colleagues here are saying. Jessica, we are with you. Oh my word, this session is going to be recorded. So if you need to hop off, we honor that. I will make sure you get this, okay? Thank you so much. A lot of us are riding mid to high, so I'm so grateful to see the fives, even the sixes and the sevens, right? From like a 1 to 10 point scale. Thank you all for showing up. This time is for you. This time is for you. So I'm so grateful that you made the space to be here today. Thank you. All right, you all. I want to share a little bit about who the Community Restorative Justice Hubs are, right? And what is it that we do? Well, our mission here at the Community Restorative Justice Hubs is using a restorative justice philosophy to really create safe and healthy community spaces. where oftentimes the young people in our community who happen to be disconnected or court involved, and also adults. This is a space where they can experience belonging, healing, opportunity, and positive transformation, right? So that's our overarching mission. And we're hubs. What do I mean by hubs? We are a network, a collective of community-based organizations in Chicago's neighborhoods who have been most impacted by violence and systematic harm. All of our organizations, which are listed below, also Circles and Ciphers, Kenwood Oakland Community, New Life, Precious Blood, Target Area, while their individual missions might be different, we all are the same in that we provide trauma-informed care, safe spaces, and opportunities for reconciliation, healing, and growth. And we collaborate together. Our collaboration matters for us. We're collaborating to build stronger, healthier communities within this restorative justice practice. So that is a little bit about us. I'm also just going to drop our website in the chat as well, in case anyone wants to just look at that website a little bit more. It's in the chat for you. Now, these organizations, these 6 organizations are joined together and work in partnership with Adler University, that's my employer, through the Institute on Public Safety and Social Justice. So the Institute for Public Safety and Social Justice came together in 2009. And the hubs themselves, this collective, came together in about 2011, 2012, where a group of the executive directors and the team at Adler came together around one central question. How can young people be an irresistible force for good, right? How do we make that a thing? How do we make it that every young person voice absolutely needs to matter and is that irresistible force for the change that we need to see and want to see? That was the question that they sat with. And from that question gave birth to what you see here on the screen, this mission, right? This collective of organizations that is constantly growing. So that's a little bit around our history as hubs and sort of what we do. All right, you all. I have a question for you all, right? As a bit of a check-in. One thing that we value, especially within the restorative justice community, is checking in with one another. That is so important. We did a little bit of that just now when asking how you feel on a scale of 1 to 5. But here's another check-in question. You're welcome to unmute or drop this in the chat. If you could toss one word in the fire today, keeping up with our campfire theme, something that you need to release or want to release, what would it be? If you can toss one word in the fire today, something you're intentionally choosing to release, what would it be? I know for me, my word is probably going to be busyness. I'm going to release that today. And I am going to be intentional about being grounded and centered and letting my feet be where they are. What about you? Feel free to use the chat or unmute. Would love to hear your voice as well. Worry, thank you. Yeah, thank you all. So many things that we have an opportunity to release. Yeah, I want you to take a moment and really envision that all of those things going into that fire. And for this moment, we don't have to think about it. Only thing that matters here is where we are. Yeah. Thank you all for sharing into that. Awesome, awesome. So here we are. Here we are. And here's our agenda today, you all. We are gathered around the fire. So couple things we're going to talk about around this fire is what is restorative justice? And then we're going to talk about the hubs, right? I gave you an overview on who the hubs are, but Did you know that the hubs have some core pillars that guide their work? As they thought about that question of how do we make young people an irresistible force for good, right? It was grounded in a few core pillars. And today's session is all about one of them, radical hospitality. So we'll talk about that. And we also have Pamela Purdy with us, who is from one of the hubs. She's from Precious Blood Ministry of Reconciliation in Chicago's South Side, back of the yards community. And we're going to hear from her on what radical hospitality looks like at her organization and how that's modeled and lived out loud. We'll also, after that, have an opportunity for you all to do an activity where you reflect on your organizational's RJ practice as it relates to creating spaces within your work for radical hospitality and creating that culture of belonging. I want to say up front, right? We all know that not every workplace was historically designed in a way that creates belonging. And I invite that perspective in here too, right? Maybe you are working in a detention center, right? Or a place that has historically not created equity and places of belonging for young people. All of these perspective matters, and we'll have an opportunity to talk about that. And you all will leave carrying the torch. So we're going to share some key takeaways with each other, ask questions, and you'll definitely want to stay until the end so you can hear what we're up to next and other opportunities to engage. Let me pause here for a moment. Is there anything that's not on the agenda that you really hoped would be on the agenda? Anything I can add? Anything you really, really want to talk about that you don't see here? Right.
Looks good.
Well, okay, awesome. Well, as questions and comments come up, we don't have to save it for the end. Feel free to unmute and share. I will say that when we get to that third section on embers of practice, we will do a bit of a breakout group so that you can have an opportunity to talk to others about what's happening in your organization and how you all are creating those places and spaces for belonging. All right, you all. So here we are. We're gathered around the campfire, and I want to start us off with just talking about what is restorative justice. Is there anyone on the call that is brand new to this conversation? You came here today because you haven't quite heard of it, you want to learn more, you're just not sure. Anybody completely new to the conversation? You go to my gallery view so I can see. Anybody want to raise their hand? Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you naming that. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Yes, couple new people. I love it. Definitely let's stay in touch. Let's stay in touch. Thank you for naming that. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, one thing I definitely want to share with you all today is the reality that restorative justice is both a philosophy and it's a practice, you all. And we find it in traditional cultures of tribes of many indigenous people, especially in Africa and the Americas, in the South Pacific, both past and present. And restorative justice really is rooted in a belief that we belong to each other. We belong to each other. We are connected to each other. And not just you and I as humans, but we're connected to the earth around us, the ground we walk in. We are so interconnected. And with that interconnectedness is also the belief that we have an obligation to do right by one another. So here we are borrowing some practices of relationship building, practices of healing and accountability, practices of restoration, instead of practices of punishment and costly confinement, right? I have a bunch of scenarios on this screen right here. You can let your eyes kind of glaze over them, right? A volunteer casual joke about a client's cultural background creates tension during a food drive. Or a team member's office prank. incidentally or accidentally damages a coworker's favorite mug. A cafeteria fight erupts after a student mocks another's lunch from their home country. A community garden that was tended by refugee families gets vandalized with hateful graffiti. How about a nurse who feels disrespected after a doctor dismisses her concerns in front of patients? Or graffiti targeting a local LGBTQ plus center, sparking fear and anger. Here on your screen are just some everyday instances of situations that could be turned into a restorative lens, right? Everyday situations, not just the big things we hear, right? But everyday moments where we have an opportunity to think about, am I in right relationship with the person next to me? Right? Am I in right relationship with my coworker, with my team member, with my community, with my neighbor, right? With the resources in my neighborhood. But not even just from instances of harm as well. We can look at this as a way of celebrating the things that's going good. Community members coming together to share ideas and hopes for future development projects. That's an opportunity for restoration and celebration and joy, right? Same way with the company that's trying to explore new ways to support employees or a family that decides together collectively so that everyone feels heard about a new trip or reunion that's planned or a student being celebrated at school. All of this could use that restorative justice lens, right? And looking at how does the story end, right? And that's the mark here. Thinking about this is where we are, and now we have an opportunity to think about what we need. I'm actually going to show you this slide first. Typically, when we think about traditional justice, we might ask questions like, what happened? Who's to blame? What rule or law was broken? How do we punish? What is that punishment, right? And sometimes we ourselves interpret these as well. We internalize these, right? I don't know to let I can only speak for myself here, but I've definitely been in some situations where I'm just like, they broke that rule again. They did that thing again, right? But on a restorative lens, restorative justice calls us to ask questions instead, like, well, what happened? Because we still want to know. But we want to know for different reasons. We want to know because we want to understand who all was involved. What was the harm that was done? And to who? And how do we make it right? So there's a shift here in the language that we use when it comes to thinking about traditional justice and restorative justice. And these elements really are highlighted in this conversation, and when we look back to indigenous teachings. I love the 7 assumptions that I have here on this slide because it also really speaks to the core of restorative justice as well and a lot of indigenous teaching around it. May I have 7 volunteers? I would love for us to popcorn read these out and see what resonates with us. So, can I have someone read the first one and then someone else? Let's just unmute and we can all read one at a time. Feel free, whoever wants to start.
No, because I got out of it, so I've just joined back with Zoom.
Thanks, Lucy. Reading that the true self is good and everyone is good, wise, and powerful. Is there another volunteer to read the second one?
The world is profoundly interconnected.
Mhm.
All human beings have a deep desire to be in a good relationship.
All human beings have gifts and everyone is needed for what they bring.
Everything we need to make positive change is already here.
Human beings are holistic.
Yeah.
We need practices to build habits of living from the core self.
Mm, thank you all. Now I'm curious if there's anyone that want to unmute. Maybe there was one on here, an assumption that's really sitting with you today. Care to share more? Which one is that?
I personally like the idea that we need practices, right? I like the idea that we can have all these ideas about goodness, but we need to have a framework so that we can support each other and have the same path. So I appreciate number 7.
Yes, thank you. I love that one too. What else? Few more people. Feel free to share.
The one I read was the second one, which is the world is profoundly interconnected. And I believe that's true uh, in the literal sense that there is a, there's the old saying, no man is an island. Well, that's true. What we do affects not just ourselves, but others around us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. All human beings have a deep desire to be in good relationship. Yes, that is sitting with me today as well. Thank you. Thank you. All right. One other person. Anyone else want to share before we move on? I'm sure these will find a way to come up again in our conversations. But I always like to give ode to indigenous traditions, to where we have gathered a lot of our restorative justice roots. And when I do, I always come back to these, and I tend to always come back to that Sankofa bird that you see, this image on the screen, right? That Sankofa bird reminds us to look back, right? We look back in order to see where we're headed. That is important. Thank you all. All right. So I mentioned this very briefly just a moment ago that the community restorative justice hubs, as they gather to think about how young people could become an irresistible force for good, they also develop some core pillars that guide their work. And in this session, we have that opportunity to talk about that very first pillar of radical hospitality. If you want to know more about these next pillars, guess what? Join us next month, and then a month after that, and then a month after that, and then a month after that. This series is every single month on the very first Thursday, and we'll be tackling each of these pillars one by one and give you an opportunity to be in conversation along with some of the Restorative Justice Hub leaders. So today we're going to focus in on radical hospitality. What did the hubs mean when they said radical hospitality? For them, they took this both literal, right? But also not literal. Radical hospitality for the community restorative justice hubs means providing a welcoming and hospitable place. And hospitality means that the space is provided in a way that welcomes young people and adults in, and it nourishes their spirits. Respect, you all, is literally the only prerequisite to belonging, right, within a restorative justice hub. The space itself provides a model for positive boundaries and positive relationships with one another. So today we're going to hone in on radical hospitality and really think through what this looks like in a very physical way, but also in some of the other elements. I'm really excited because you all will leave here with a tool today to think about what spaces of belonging and hospitality look like in the departments you work in and the organizations you work in. But for now, I want to have a conversation with Miss Pamela Purdy, who is on the call today. We're going to have this conversation around radical welcome and what it really looks like to create spaces of belonging. Pamela, are you there?
I'm here. I'm
Yay,
here.
yay, yay. Yes, I want to chat with you for a little bit. First, can you introduce yourself? Let us know who you are. I want to see if I can pin you to the top or make you big, but go
Okay.
ahead. Let us know who you are. Your camera is off, just so you know.
It's
But give
off
us an
or on. Can you see
introduction.
me?
We cannot see you, not right now.
Okay. I mean, I'm looking kind of raggedy today. Can you see me?
We can. You are lovely. You are fearless. You are wonderful.
Um, my name is Pamela Purdy, as she said. I live in Chicago, in Oak Park. I'm not from Illinois. I'm from North Carolina, but I've been here for quite some time. And it'll be this June, 10 years with Precious Blood. Before that, I was doing trainings and doing circles independently in different states for different organizations. But I started out in Chicago Public Schools. I was creating peace circle rooms there and also introducing restorative justice to the school system. And so it's been a long road since 2000. I've been doing this. And then 2016, I came aboard at Precious Blood. Why Precious Blood? Because this is like Colin was saying about the hubs. This was the first hub, and we're also a restorative justice hub. And so why I was brought on board was because it's a restorative justice hub, and that was what I was, a restorative justice coordinator. And they needed me to bring to the organization the philosophy of restorative justice. So we started with training staff and also the young people here. We serve young men and women here in programming. And so also to make sure that they were trained and familiar with the way of restorative justice. What a restorative justice hub looks like, community hub looks like, we adopt the whole community. My role is to make sure that the community understands what restorative justice is. I go and introduce myself to the schools in the area, to the police department, to the religious leaders, churches. And then once a month, I hold a community circle for just anyone in the community, because we like them to know that our role here at Precious Blood is to build relationships with everybody. And then we go outside of the community as well, because our young men and women sometimes get jobs in other areas away from back of the yard. We're in back of the yards in Chicago. So why I love my job, I love waking up, coming here, because it's really, my job is coming to, let me close the door, I'm sorry.
Mhm. As she's doing that, if you have questions that's coming up for you as you hear her talk, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll get to them as well.
I come here to get hugs and to love and be loved. It's really about the relationship with everyone. Who are you and what do you need? Not who are you and what can we do for you? Because it's not our role to do things for people. It's our role, or my role as the coordinator of restorative justice mindset, is to see how I can help you. But first, that has to do with our conversation and relationship. And that's what I do in my 4-day. Every month, I do a 4-day peace circle training. In those 4 days, we build relationship with whoever's in the training. It's usually 15 to 20 people. And it's to really, really emphasize the importance of relationship building with one another. Because when that happens, anything's possible. I more than likely will listen to you. I will listen to you really tell me what you observe about my needs. So I build and build and build relationships in the community, meaning the institutions, the political figures, everybody that has something to do with the community folks. We also have a mother's program for mothers who lost children to gun violence and have children incarcerated. We build relationship with them so they can be each other's strength. We have a returning citizen program for young men juveniles who were sentenced to life, and now they're out. They're men in their 40s and 50s, but we have housing for them. And we have about 6 on staff. They're mentors, case manager, community outreach people. But the biggest thing we do here is when people come through this door at Precious Blood, they feel the love and they feel the compassion and the empathy. So not only am I doing circles here and training individuals, my role also is to continue to build on all the relationships that come through the door and also in the community. I enjoy working with the schools. I enjoy working with the police. We have some restorative judges because a lot of our young men are impacted by the courts. They have cases, and so there are restorative justice, restorative judges and lawyers that we call on, or they call on us. I have trained a few officers and also community people, families of the young men and women that we serve. We do family circles. Sister Donna does family circles as well. So everything is restorative justice of mindset. We create a lot of safe spaces where things can be heard and things can be worked out in safe space, in circles. So that's what I do. I'm the circle keeper as well as the trainer.
Yeah, oh my word. And you do so much. Like having previously worked at Precious Blood, like every organization needs a Pamela, y'all. Like every organization needs a Pamela. I want to hone in on one of the you talked about so much, but even as you talked about young people are more likely to listen to you, to want to know you if they feel like they're heard, right? Like if they feel like they have that sense of belonging with you. Can you talk about some of the maybe physical? Let's start physical ways that Precious Blood is set up, right? In a way that lets people feel like they belong. What does that look like? What does the physical setup look like that promotes belonging?
Well, first of all, we have created programs. We have different programs that a youth can be part of. You have to keep in mind in a place like Back of the Yards or Inglewood or other at-risk neighborhoods, they're at risk because they're limited to what they can do, what's here. Jobs are not here. So what we've done at Precious Blood, we created, we got help from the young men to decide what they love to do, but we have silk screen business, like where you can make t-shirts and sweatshirts. We have culinary for the young men who can cook, pottery. We had the wood shop was getting ready to open back up, GED program. We have acting. We have a music studio where you can make videos. So what we do is we bring in the young men, the ones that are after school, of course, and then the ones that are out of school and currently looking for work. We bring you in and introduce you to a passion. And there are a lot of young men and women that are interested in these things that I just mentioned, the studio, the art. We have a beautiful artist and we sell their work. They sell their work. We have a grand opening at the end of each cohort. But the idea is to embrace them. We have the mentor and the case managers that kind of guide them. It's radical hospitality. I mean, we accompaniment them anywhere they need to go. But the main focus is, now the young men say this, these are not my words, but when I'm with a young man or a young woman and they're with me and we're talking about Precious Blood, they'll say we take individuals from the hood and introduce them to a passion so that hopefully they will put down the gun or put down whatever they're doing that's being of harm to them. And that is what we do. I can bring you in. I can show you how you really have some skills as a cook. You should be doing catering. They get work where they're catering fundraisers for different organizations. We have open house, we have fundraisers. So there's a lot of ways for the young people to show their talents and their skills. We have the art show where all the paintings are in a gallery and they're making music. So it's a lot of ways, and it's not always about the money. It's about my reaching something inside of you to make you feel proud. Look what you've done. And they really are proud of the things that they produce here. There is a farm. Fredo has been working in that farm. We have 3 young men in the farm who would never think coming from where they're coming from, basically on the streets, basically, not in school, but just hanging out. But now they're working in the farm. They're growing things. They're growing vegetables and spices. And it's beautiful to see that light bulb turn on, and they can really do something other than be shot at, and I'll keep it real, or shoot at somebody, because this is all they have. But when they come here and we introduce them, or we tap into something that they actually love to do, that's what we focus on. And then the role is to get them jobs outside of the community. And we pay them to be in these programs, minimum wage, for about a year or two. And then we push them out the door, but we accompany them to get jobs in a restaurant, to get jobs designing t-shirts. Now, the t-shirts and sweatshirts, they're already doing that for companies. They can make 200 t-shirts in one day. They can design logos. So they're really running with that. But they're ours. When they come through that door, they're ours. And our role is to really set you up where you are independently doing something you love to do. And then if altercations happen, like always in families when something come up, my role then is to create that space, and we hold circle around everything that comes up. Also have a relationship with the school. I can come in if there's a talk that some harm is going to be done to a student, that the teacher is not get along with the class. I come into that school and hold circle spaces. Sometimes the officers will come upstairs and say, I don't want to lock this kid up. It's not that serious, but something needs to be done or something needs to be said. That's where I come in. We create that space where things can be talked about.
Yeah, Pamela, I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that, right? I'm hearing you talk a lot about young people at Precious Blood having voice, having agency, right, within the programs that Precious Blood has. What happens when harm is caused, right? Or a young person may have caused harm within this sacred space. How do
Well,
how do we re-engage? Yeah.
we re-engage. Sometimes we can carry on with bringing the two together. Sometimes not. But remember also that each young person has a case manager. And so that case manager gets to know the family, gets to know what triggers this young person has. But when we have things like, I don't know, we had two young men to cause harm to another young man by beating him up and taking his book bag, and stuff happens like that. And so what we do in a case like that is work with the person that's been harmed, and we had to work with him away from the center because he no longer felt safe in this space. And then we worked with the two and they bring in, who was present when that happened. It happened in one of the programs. And just to let them know, we don't throw you away. We don't focus on your actions. We focus on the individual. What's happening? What do you need? Instead of saying, look at what you've done, you caused harm, it's been really bad. You have to hold people accountable. They do recognize the harm, but then my role, what I'm more concerned with is what else do we need to do so this feels like home to you and you would not want to harm it? Because we have to be clear when things like that happens, you harmed us, Precious Blood, you harmed the community, you have caused harm. But what's going on where you would do that? Because a lot of times, Precious Blood is a safe space. We talk about safe space in Circle. A lot of our young men are either homeless or going from couch to friend house, and their homes are not safe spaces for them. This is a safe place for them. And so they have to take ownership of that. So what you just asked, what happens when harm is caused? You're not just causing harm, you're causing to just somebody, you're causing harm to the organization. And a lot of young men feel like that because I can hear them. I can hear them check another young person because this is my safe space, but now you disrespecting it. You're coming in here, you're smelling like weed, you coming in here, you're trying to sell some weed, you coming in here, you're trying to steal the laptop. I hear them check each other because for a lot of the young people, this is their safe space and they take ownership of that. But that's all. My role is to what can I do to make this feel more like where you can go and you can relax and this is yours. And that's the feeling that you get when you come in here and you interact with some of the young people. I'm telling you, if Precious Blood was not here, a lot of lives would be lost. a lot of harm will be done in the community around our young people because they really don't feel safe. Every day they wake up, they don't feel safe. And so it's important that we open our doors and allow them to feel safe when they're here and build relationships with each other. So they're strengthening the relationship because this is a neutral grounds. This is a neutral space. When you come in here, we're just a one family.
Absolutely. I want to pause here and take the next 5 minutes. Do you all have any questions or what's coming up for you all? I know in this moment I'm definitely resonating with the when young people or participants can feel a sense of ownership, right? They begin to develop new ways of being accountable to themselves, to the space, to each other, and that's powerful as well. What's coming up for you all? Any questions, any thoughts? Feel free to unmute and share.
I'm gonna run
I
to the
just want to
restroom.
say,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Was that Michelle? Oh,
yes, it was.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment and say the safety issue is very poignant. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as a Black person, as a Black woman myself, I mean, I don't know, and I'm just processing right now as I'm speaking, if I can really truly say if I've ever felt safe within society with the racial systemic structures that are in place. Just like when you leave the house, you have to make sure, you know, you don't know if you're going to come back.
Mm. Mm.
Getting pulled over by the police or being policed by white body supremacy, that's a real thing, safety. And I think it might not be thought of in a way if you don't have to deal with that. Because when you're a Black person or an Indigenous person, any other brown person, you have to deal with things that many others don't have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. And you know,
And so you have
if
to
I
pick your
may
battles too throughout the day to stay alive.
yeah. And if I may, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
If I may say this, it surprised me, but it don't surprise me anymore. Sometimes our young men would come in, and thank you for that, for your comment, because it made me think about this, how our young people have internalized that is normal. They'll come in and they'll be breathing really hard. Oh, I'm sorry, let me put the microphone. They will come in and they'll be breathing really, really hard. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Just got pulled over by the police, man. And they tried to, yelling at me and screaming at me. And they finally let me go. And I'm like, God, thank God they let them go. But when they have those excursions, it's horrible. It just, to just know that can happen anytime. Just walking down the street. And the first thing they always say to them is, what gang are you in? And if you tell them no, one of the young men, if you tell them you're not in a gang, they get even madder. And you don't know, right? You can lose your life right there. But yeah, they do have situations like that where they almost don't expect it to happen. And we have another situation too by these neighborhoods are dangerous, like you said, but a lot of them carry weapons. They have weapons, and we don't allow weapons in precious blood, but we know that a population of our young men are not feeling safe, so they're carrying guns. So a lot of our cases where they are charged is gun cases, but we haven't, we fight a lot. I go to meetings, Father Kelly go to meetings. We're trying to merge the two conversations up with you wanting to lock someone up because they have a gun to protect themselves, or how much of it you're willing to see that it's a necessity. But I see that would never happen because any gun is a potential gun to cause harm or take a life. So there are a lot of gun cases that we're constantly bringing in lawyers to help our young men with. And that's been happening since I got here, long before I got here, that young men feel unsafe, not just from the police, from other young men. crossing lines and not being supposed to be in that neighborhood. And then we have a lot of internal violence between each other where they're from the same neighborhood, but there's frictions on the 51st Street against 47th Street. And we constantly are working with that, or dealing with that. Every Wednesday, myself, I hold a circle with the young men at Precious Blood. No matter how hard or what's going on in your life, they know that they're going to come together every Wednesday to talk about what's going on and what they need. And so that's where a lot of this stuff come up when we kind of ask them what's going on in the neighborhood. It's a lot of violence on each other.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this point up. This is definitely real. Pamela, I want to thank you for your time and engaging in this conversation, helping us to see a little bit more what a radical welcome, right? Creating spaces of belonging, what that looks like at Precious Blood. Now I wanted to turn this actually back around to everybody, right? Because yes, Precious Blood, that's Chicago, it's here, right? But I want you to start to think about where you work. We all dropped in where we worked earlier when we came in. What does belonging look like in your workplace, right? So to engage us in this conversation, I'm actually going to share a link in the chat. And we are going to use a mapping tool. This tool was created by us here at the community RJ Hubs. I just dropped the link in the chat. It should force you to make a copy, so we're not all copying on the same one. But it's there. Please let me know if you can access it. I'm also going to share it on the screen as well, and we can take a look at it together. All right, let me know if we all have it, if we're able to access this document. Give me a thumbs up. Someone says it's not giving them access. Let me see if I could share it again. I want to take this off actually because my email is there. Give me one moment. Anybody else? Okay, no access. Okay, one moment. No problem, no problem at all. Gonna reshare this. And then maybe I'll just encourage you to manage access. Sure, that's what's going on. Yeah, that's what's going on. All right, so I'm copying the link and I'm going to reshare it, and then you all should be able to see it after that. All right, try this new link. Let me know. Let me know if it works for you. Okay, thumbs up. Thanks, Danny. Awesome. Okay, so let me walk you through this for a moment. We won't have time to do the entire activity, but we will have time to do one part of it and reflect with a peer. So this is an activity that's going to allow you to map what belonging looks like in your organization. So first, you're going to start off on the second page and review the glossary of belonging themes, right? So those are these things. This is just a beginner list of themes that relate to how belonging is actually felt and practiced. Thank you for doing that. And what this looks like in your work environment. So when we talk about safety, Pamela talked about safety a lot, right? Safety of how young people feel safe, right? But also how Precious Blood is an organization that makes young people feel safe. We also heard her talk about voice and agency, right? Having real opportunities to speak, to be heard. Recognition. People feel like they belong when they feel like they can be recognized, right? I want you to read through this glossary. Take a moment, just let your eyes skim. And then from there, can you decide on at least one theme for now? One theme. Decide on one theme from this glossary that you want to explore as it relates to where you work. So pick one. When you're not here, I invite you to pick a couple more, right? You got four boxes here. So for example, Mark is at spinal cord injury, right? He might decide, okay, I want to talk about how at spinal cord injury, we promote access and inclusion. Because access and inclusion, when people feel those things, it relates to them feeling like they can belong. Sarah at Encompass Community Safety Agency, you might want to talk about recognition, right? How does your organization promote recognition, right? Is this making sense? How we feeling? How we feeling? How we feeling? Okay. So I want you to just take 5 minutes here on your own time right now. Take the next 5 minutes. Go ahead and insert your theme, at least one theme that you want to explore right here in that first quadrant. When we're not together, I want to invite you to pick 3 other, but I want you to just pick one for now. And think about these guiding questions here at the top. How does this show up, right? How does physical safety really literally show up at where you work? Are there practices and norms that support that? Are there tension or gaps when it comes to physical safety, right? And providing that. Is there a change that can strengthen that? All right. Give me a thumbs up if that's making sense, if you're able to access the document, if this is working for you. Let me know. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, take a moment. Yes, perfect. Take a moment and at least fill out one quadrant with one of those themes at the bottom. You also are welcome to create your own, right? This is not just a one theme show. If there's another way that you express what belonging means to you and your organization, fill it in. I'll give you the next 5 minutes. I promise I'm gonna stop talking for a second. All right, folks are coming back in. I hope that was a good enough time to at least get some teaser conversations, to at least know someone's name. I hope. Awesome.
He's from here, right?
All right, everyone. Thank you for engaging in that conversation. I'm so curious if a few people just kind of want to unmute. I want to be nosy. I wish I was a fly on the wall in your breakout rooms. What stood out to you, right? As you either did the activity, or from your conversations, from our conversation with Pamela today from Precious Blood, what stood out to you? You can answer any of these questions. Is there a small action that you want to take within your organization to really deepen your restorative justice practice or really think about what belonging looks like where you are? Anything you're taking away? Feel free to unmute and share.
I guess I'll say something if that's okay. I really appreciated my group conversation and specifically about each individual. I think Yolanda, you're the one that said it. Each individual makes up a system, right? And sometimes I know for myself, like you get kind of frozen because you don't think that you can do enough change, right? Or that you're afraid of making mistakes. But like you have on your slide here, it's like there's small actions that you can take, right? And I think everybody here has taken a small action by participating and by being open. And I feel like for me, like I really want to cultivate safe spaces and work and personally. And so like I feel like I'm like on the right path, and I just want to say that I'm grateful for everybody's contribution, and it's affirming to me to know that like there's things that we can do individually, and I'm gonna keep on trying.
Thank you. What else is coming up? Cami? Kami?
Hold on, let me turn on my video. Well, we've talked about a lot of things, being from the United States and Canada, so we had a built-in side conversation kind of about politics. Sorry about that. But we did talk about different areas. Both of us work for way different organizations. I work for a technical college, and she worked for a domestic violence organization. So two different things. Her quadrant was on safety, and mine was on voice and agency. And I'll just go into mine a little bit. I say voice and agency because at my organization, Milwaukee Area Technical College is a very big behemoth of a school, 29,000 students, okay? Many different student populations. And within our college, we do have the opportunity as staff and faculty to be on different committees. And that is like shared governance, matrix style organization. However, it's the same staff and faculty that are always on these committees. So an area of growth would be to allow the frontline staff to be able to attend these committees. And I wouldn't even say that's a small action, that's a big action. So I'm taking that away.
I love that. I love that you are walking with a big action that's very tangible that you can go back and talk to your team, your workplace about actually making it happen. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing. I actually really appreciate just the diversity in your group of United States, Canada, right? And just talking about all the things because I don't know how we think we don't need Canada. We need y'all. Anyway, is there another person that want to share? What's sticking out to you? What's an action? What have you taken away? I invite you to take this activity back to your larger teams. Don't end it here. You only looked at one quadrant of safety and belonging, right? There's so many others that you can explore from that glossary. Take this back to your teams. Take it back to your jobs and ask, where do we start? How do we deepen this? That document also has some reflection questions at the very end, right? Those are good questions too to ask. This activity can really be twofold, right? You could think about what it looks like. Thank you so much for joining. You could think about what this looks like internally or externally as you engage participants, clients, your community, all of that. So thank you all. Well, I also want you to stay connected, you all. Reach out to me. My email is here on the screen. I want you to reach out to me. I want you to have a conversation with me about what work you're doing and how we might be able to support you at the Community Restorative Justice Hubs. So please, let's get some time on the calendar to connect. Sign up for our next session. It's going to be June 5th. I'll drop that link in the chat. And on that one, we're going to talk about the second RJ principle, which is related to accompaniment. So we're going to talk about what does it look like to really walk together. And we're going to dive into some RJ related practices for accompaniment and belonging. That session is now live on Eventbrite. I'll post it here for you. Go ahead and join. And if there's anyone that you feel like might enjoy this session, please invite them. Couple other things I want to invite you to do is to share your feedback. Your feedback really, really matters. It informs what these sessions look like and let us know if we are doing well by you. So you can share your feedback on this particular session. And also, I'm going to drop, I promise this is my last link, a survey, because we also want to know where you're thinking of when it comes to restorative justice. As we're thinking about expanding into different topics, what topics would you like to see presented here? What areas of restorative justice really excite you? So use that last survey link to really share in. We really appreciate that. There's also a raffle included with that survey. You can get a free RJ Hubs hoodie. That is a thing as well. So let me know when you finished it. All right, you all. This has been such a pleasure learning alongside with you and talking about restorative justice through the lens of belonging. I really do hope to see you in our next session next month on practices for accompaniment, and we'll continue talking a little bit more about belonging. I'm happy to share this deck and also that activity that you all did as well. I'll follow up with an email. But until then, it is my wish that you all feel deep places of belonging until we meet again. Take care, everyone.